Hey there, friends. Here I am talking about C3 feedback statements for the scoring season 2022. So I took the time to review 25 different score reports and talk to the teachers that these score reports belong to. I didn't know all of these teachers prior to doing this, but from from these meetings, I was able to see a pattern in what the assessors are seeing and not seeing. So let's jump right in and see what happened this scoring season with 25 different score reports that I reviewed personally. All right, the number over to the right is how many times I saw that feedback statement appear on a score report. The orange indicates that the teacher was at least at the level 3. So or approaching the level 3. So that teacher might have gotten a 2.5. So so they want to say to the teacher, look, this is what you can do to get over the hump into the 3-4 range. Whenever you see orange, that means they found clear evidence, but they didn't find consistent and convincing evidence to move into that next range. If you don't see the orange, those statements came at the 2 level. So they would have come from the 2 to the 2.5. Might have been a 1.75. It just depends. But it definitely was nowhere near the 3 level. So they're just trying to say to these teachers, look, you could have gotten up to the 2.75, which is proficient level, had you given more clear evidence of this. All right. So looking at the numbers, 19 teachers out of 25 got the fact that they did not evidence insight on future instructional practices. That means reflective writing wasn't evident at a high level of insight to the future. Don't forget that. You've got to get that in there. 19 teachers should not have gotten that feedback statement. No. All right, the second one, again, wasn't in that 3-4 range, but clear evidence that you develop and deliver relevant learning sequences and use diverse instructional strategies to engage all students. Oh my goodness. Guys, sometimes what is happening here and what I'm noticing is teachers are filming activities. And activities are very different than lessons. Today, in this day and age of the way we plan, we don't always plan like we were taught to plan all the way through. You know, those long 2-3 page lesson plans where we had everything step by step and it was a complete sequence and what we were doing. We have to plan like that. I like to say to teachers, develop like a slideshow of index cards. What are you going to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth in the lesson? And then intersperse like formative assessment into that where you're able to observe and modify and move the instruction. That would be typical. You are able to give feedback to the students. So I'm like a color coding person. I do everything with colors. And so I would have colored index cards, and where I'm going to make sure I intersperse feedback, it would be on one color. Where I'm going to do formative will be on another color. Where I'm going to make sure that there's student to student engagement, I'm going to make sure that that is interspersed on a color, because we need to see student to student, student to teacher, and teacher to student engagement. You've got to have diverse instructional strategies here. Your one lesson should not look like your number 2 lesson. You should look almost like a totally different teacher, not the same teacher, because you have to justify why would you do something in small group or one-on-one versus whole group. You don't just do it in small group because they're like, okay, show a small group, but you really could have done that in whole group. That's another reason why sometimes people are getting this feedback statement. Develop and deliver relevant learning sequences, relevant to the students, relevant, not just out of a text that you found somewhere either. Okay, so there's so much going on with that feedback statement. It typically is the number 1 feedback statement given on the 2 range. for teachers, and it is loaded, but it is one I want you to pay attention to apply the appropriate pedagogy to facilitate classroom and or small group engagement between students and you. Back to that student to student, teacher to student, student to teacher. Pedagogy is strategies, the vehicle for which you teach content. Okay. The next one is set worthwhile goals for students and connect instruction to those goals. I'm screaming it to the mountaintops. Like, you don't just write the goals on the form or just write the goals when you answer the question, but you never, ever talk about the goals and connect to the goals ever again in your writing or in your teaching. It should be obvious that you're working towards certain goals. The kids should know the goals. You know the goals. It's goals driven. It's got to be goals driven, and you have to connect. Remember that sequence of those index cards together with those goals. And so I can't say it enough. And then the next one, which I consider to be a big one that a lot of teachers are getting, is assess student progress, explain student performance, and make adjustments to instruction where needed. Well, if you haven't even planned on your index card slideshow, color-coded, to assess, to be able to recognize that students are actually performing and you aren't the only one performing, and that you're going to make adjustments in the middle of it, then it's never going to happen. Of course, it's not going to be in your video. It's not going to be in your video. So you have to plan for it. Now, this takes lots of time. Absolutely. You are not allowed to cut different parts of your video in initial. Some teachers have done that, and let me show you what they got for that. They got this right here. You may wish to review the instructions to ensure you follow directions. Instantly down to a 2. Bam. Because they edited. They made cuts in their video. You cannot do that in initial. You can do it in MOOC. Don't listen to the MOC people. You just don't do it. Don't edit. 0 edits. You'll go directly to a 2 on that. Okay, don't do that. 4 people out of the 25 did that. And I've never seen that feedback statement before. So I just think you're hearing people out in the world talking about cutting. They do say something about it in the book manual, but just don't do it. Please don't do it. I'm just freaking out over here. Don't do it. That you foster an equitable setting that provides a safe, intellectually challenging environment. So, if the kids' voices aren't being heard, if it's mostly you talking or 1 or 2 students in the class doing all the talking, you're going to get that feedback statement. It has to feel like a safe classroom community where and intellectually challenging means there's rigor. If the lesson is too easy, you're going to get that one. Describe your own teaching practice and reflect on instructional decisions. You don't just leave the reflection to the end. The end is your future instructional practices. You are kind of describe, analyze, reflecting all the way through. And that's when you'll get that one. Notice only 5 out of 25 got that, but it's still important to note. We've already talked about this one. Knowledge of the subject as you appropriately design and deliver your classroom lessons. Sometimes teachers, especially a generalist teachers, utilize science or social studies content, and they don't go deep enough in the content. And so it appears that they don't really know what the subject is. The kids know more than they know. And that's no good. 4 people that happened to. Consistent and convincing ability to foster a supportive, stimulating, and productive learning environment, which all students are encouraged to participate. Again, you already saw that one, similar to that one with the equitable setting. But this is on getting to that 3-4 range. Understand child development and have insight into student differences and learning motivations. So you really have to understand equitability again and what kids can and cannot do, and provide differentiation as needed in your lesson. And then describe your own teaching practice and reflect on your instructional decisions. So again, that goes back to getting to that 3-4 range. So if we look over at our scoring guide and we look at the score level 2, that I think, let me see what page this is on. So on page 37 of your scoring guide, I've color-coded this by pay attention. I want you to really pay attention to the blues. Okay, the 5 core propositions are the underlying things. notice that the majority of teachers that I surveyed and I looked at score reports on, and they were from all areas: counseling, PE, high school, middle school, elementary, literacy. They were all over the board. They were struggling with the pillar number 2. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects. These things in blue, you must pay attention to. More often than not, assessors were giving these blue statements out. These 3 statements are the ones you must pay attention to, and you must work on your own portfolio. The green is kind of in the middle. Some teachers were getting them, some teachers were not getting them. Still, I want you to pay close attention to them because the assessors are really like on those, like white on rice. So pay attention to those. And then the ones in yellow, a few teachers got them. There are just usually very specific reasons why they got them. Most of you will do okay on them. I said here about the edits on the video. Up here, I just don't think these teachers really understood the depth at which they had to get to. They kind of just did what they've always done instead of really bringing the standards knowledge into how much you have to understand your students and know the subjects you teach. So a few people got those, not many. Remember, that's your score level 2. So on your score level 3, when these are people like really wanting to get from the 3 to the 4 range, or from the 2.75, I should say, to the 4 range, fostering that equitable settings. You've got to show equity in this video. Again, your slideshow of your cards, make sure you plan for equitable experiences for students or appreciation of diversity for students in your classroom. Pay very close attention to the blue. Evidence of insight on your future instructional practices. If they say, what will you do in the future? What does this tell you? Don't say, I won't change anything. No way. This is where I want to like cuss right now, but I'm not going to because that's not polite. But I want to say you are always going to do something different and you're going to know what you do different. Yes, you are. Do it, say it, something that is relative to what happened in that video. And then, or each one of those videos when you're talking about it. Remember, yellow is, it's happened to a couple of people. I don't think it's going to happen to everybody. Just put it on your radar. Green, you really need to focus on it. Happened to at least, enough people for you to put it on your radar. So anything else that's not highlighted, we didn't see those feedback statements. Okay. So pay close attention to this. Now, if you are, also wait, one more thing. I want to tell you down here, I'm also doing this for C4 and C2. So find those videos if they matter to you. And I'm sorry for this crazy scroll I got going on here. Let me see. Oh, there we go. All right. Remember this. A score of 2.75 is the lowest rubric score in the range of clear evidence for accomplished teaching. So if you're like, where should I be, Tracey? I mean, I know they say 1.75. That's what they're saying in an unweighted average score. But to pass national board, I can't believe I just used that word, to earn national board certification, I implore you to get to the 2.75 in each subsection if possible. That's when you are guaranteed fireworks. You could be at like a 2.5 in one section and a 2.8 in another, but collectively at the 2.75 mark, that is showing accomplished teaching practice. So it's okay if you got a 2 in C4. It's okay. You get a 3 in C2. They offset each other. Do you see that? All right. And then your C3 and your C1, they are your big boys. You have to score well on those or you're not going to see fireworks. And you have up to 2 retake attempts for each component. That's it. No more. You have no more than 2. So you can only retake C3 2 times. You shouldn't want to retake C2 2 times. You should want to go ahead and get this thing done right. But this is what you have to do. All right. Now, most important thing here is know the writing styles of the national board. Understand that. Understand how to write so the assessors find the evidence. And those of you who are in my course You understand that because I teach that. If you're not in my course and you want to know about it, go over to TraceyBryantStuckey.com and you'll see it there. Component 3, Teaching and Learning course. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.